Hello, Must Readers. I'm Madeline Popelka. I am the person behind Must Read Fiction. Thank you for being part of this community. I am a reader and writer and just love all stories and everything fiction. And just love talking to readers. I love hearing why other people love to read. So I am here with my mother, Janet Popelka. She is the woman who taught me to read. So I really wanted to get behind the scenes, kind of talk about reading, talk about growing up reading, talk about why she is a lifelong reader, and because we multitask in our family, we also had some ironing to do. So we're gonna get some ironing done and talk reading. So, Hi Mom.
Hello, Erin. And I love your site, Must Read Fiction. So I'm really proud of you for doing that. And thank you for allowing me to multitask while we make this little video.
Oh, well, I'm glad we're gonna get things done. So thank you for teaching me how to read. When I was little, I feel like I remember you talking about how I loved like Goodnight Moon. Were you so sick of that book now?
No, in fact, when you mentioned this, that was the first book that came to mind when I thought about what I would say on this video was that I do remember sitting there at night and many nights in a row and reading Goodnight Moon, and you about had it memorized. So that was a very special time.
Yeah. Yep. Were there other books that you were less fond of that I also almost had memorized?
I don't remember all the books,
yeah.
But it was a priority, and I think because your Aunt Suzanne worked in the textbook industry and was an English teacher, that she was also very instrumental in encouraging books, because she sent you so many books.
Yeah.
But you had quite an extensive library.
Yeah.
I think I remember more about when you became school-aged and your love for reading continued. And the books that I particularly remember you getting into, there are 3 sets. You liked the sets of books.
Okay.
So I think the first one when you were youngest, and let's see if this goes with your memory, is the Berenstain Bear books.
Oh, I loved the Berenstain Bear books. So, I read all of the Berenstain Bear books.
Yeah, I think they were $4.95 or something like that.
Yep.
And so we had a big set of Berenstain Bear books when you were little. So that was the first set that I remember you reading. And then the next one, as you got a little bit older, you've always been a jokester. So the next set of books really was not so, well, it was reading, but it was also comics. So that was your Garfield set of books.
I did have a big set of Garfield comic books, that's right.
So those were really important to you. And then as you got a little bit older, it was the Nancy Drew mysteries.
Oh, yes. I still have all of those books. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the 3 sets of books that really come to mind. And then I think you also read the Anne of Green Gables series.
Oh, I did love Anne of Green Gables.
As you got a little bit older.
Yeah.
And the other person that gets a lot of credit is the librarian at your elementary school.
Mrs. Updegrove.
I think by the time you were in 3rd grade, she came to me and said that you were one of the most voracious readers that she had ever had.
Oh, wow. I don't think I knew that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. She said sometimes you were hard to keep up with because she kept having to find new things for you to read. So
I remember her pointing, I think I must have been in later, it was like 4th or 5th grade, pointing me to some of the kind of more young adult novels. She's like, oh, try these, oh, try those. Yeah.
Madeline Langel.
Oh, I loved,
my goodness. Love her books.
She's fantastic.
Those books cross between young adult and adult.
They're so resonant.
Those were another good. We're remembering. I thought I would be able to remember. I don't have a good memory for. I love to read, but then people ask me, "What did you read last?" and I can't remember the name of the book.
That's okay.
So that's my shortfall.
Yeah, but you love reading. You've been a lifelong reader too?
Well, yeah, and the book that I guess going back when I think about it, the book that had the most impact for me was that I read between 7th and 8th grade. And it was over the summer, and it was Gone with the Wind.
Oh, yeah.
And it was about 1,000 pages long,
it's a big one.
Recall.
Yeah.
And that was my summer read. Oh, I also remember as a kid, and you too, we went to the library. And
I remember the Mariemont Library.
And we did the library series in the summer where you read so many books and got prizes and things like that.
Yeah.
And coloring contests, I think you did.
Yep.
Or maybe that was graders.
That was great. I think that was also graders ice cream.
Maybe
it's
not.
good.
Maybe not the library. So as a child too, I did the library thing where you checked out books.
Oh yeah. And you had to read. I remember you saying like a book a week, and you'd get like a check mark or a star or something.
Yeah. Or the summer. And if I recall, I know my parents allowed me to do this, but we lived in a small town in central Illinois, and it was pretty. And Mom had 5 kids.
Yeah.
So it was pretty safe for kids to kind of be on their own. But I remember when I was little, maybe 2nd grade, 3rd grade, taking the city bus
Oh wow.
to the library.
All by yourself?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Not today.
It would be called neglect in this day and age.
Yeah,
but
you got there. And that's where you wanted to go, was you wanted to go to the library.
I would do the library. Well, the other was the YMCA where I learned to swim.
Yes.
It was the MCA, not the, they had a different one.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So that's where I learned to swim, and then I do remember going off and getting books from the library over the summer.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in school, we didn't go to the library as much. But
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
So, and when you were little, we would take you to the library for the book story hour.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You and your friends.
Yep.
And the moms would take and do that too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's kind of some of my early recollections. And then I suppose the next. Whoops.
Whoopsie daisies. We'll fix that. Hello
You
again.
can tell this is a first time.
We're
with
figuring this all
equipment.
out.
So as an adult, I don't recall. I know I always read, but book clubs became important in my adulthood.
I was going to ask you because you've been in book clubs, pretty much since I remember. I mean,
well, two of them. But it was after we moved to St. Louis.
Yeah.
I was in a book club, and a friend, a swim team friend of ours, Rebecca Schaefer. And
indeed.
I started a book club.
Yeah, and that was early 90s. So,
Was
yeah.
it?
Well, we moved to St. Louis in 93.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, gosh, 20 plus years of book clubs.
No, I don't think we started it right away.
Okay.
If I recall, maybe it was about 12 or 13 years before we moved out here to the West Coast.
Okay.
That we had that book club going.
Yeah.
And just, there were tons of women that filtered through, and the way we worked it is that in September we would meet. We would have, everybody would bring 2 or 3 books that they wanted to recommend, and the whole group would decide on what book that we would choose. And whoever chose the book would facilitate the discussion at our book club.
Yep.
And then other people would volunteer to help host and make food, and so that went for 12 or 13 years before we moved out here to the Washington State.
Yeah.
And here another friend and I started a book club that's been going for about 5 years.
Wow.
So
Yeah. I still remember in college, I guess, when I became an English major, you would ask me for book recommendations.
That's right,
for
for
your
my
book
book
group.
club.
And I remember both being like so flattered and also a little bit overwhelmed because one of my English teachers from my high school was in your book group.
she was.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh gosh, I'm picking a book for my English teacher and feeling like, and not only that, but like knowing that as I was recommending these books, I was also recommending like, hey, I think this is worth, all these hours that you're going to spend reading it. And and all the, just knowing that like the choices that I would make would mean that everyone would give it a try.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is
How's it going?
good. Oh, and by the way, we are ironing. If you want to know, people will want to know.
You should, if you want to tell,
All
you
right.
should tell.
Erin is going to become a first-time aunt, and I'm going to become a first-time grandmother in about 6 weeks. And so what I'm ironing is the linens for an antique bassinet that I found. So they've all been washed, and I'm starching them and ironing them to go into the bassinet. So,
yeah, it looks beautiful. She was painting it earlier today. Little touch-up spots because it's an antique to get it all ready and beautiful for the baby when the baby comes here. Gosh, 6 weeks.
Yep.
It's coming right up.
Okay. So
and
that's
then we'll
what
have
we're
a new
honoring.
reader in the family.
That's right.
We can start back at the beginning again with Goodnight Moon.
I haven't given her a book yet.
I know, I gave her, I found a book about the Antarctic because I have spent some time in Antarctica. And so I found this vintage old book. I thought it said, your first book of the Antarctic, but it actually was the first book of the Antarctic. So it's not quite a baby book, but she'll grow into it.
And maybe her big brother will read it.
Maybe her big brother will read her big stepbrother. So,
yeah. Got it. All right. So what else do you want to talk about?
I guess I'm just curious, what makes a really great story for you? What is it about reading that you keep coming back?
All right. I also have a couple of true confessions. I am a slow reader.
Yeah.
So,
and that's something you struggled with too, growing up.
Well, Jason and I, your dad and I, before children. So when we were up in Milwaukee, living there for a while, we took a speed reading class, and I did it. I learned techniques, but I did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I am a creature of habit, and I go back to my reading slowly. So what makes me keep reading? The book's got to catch me in the first few pages.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, it's a put it down and
Yeah.
And sometimes I come back to it and try it again, thinking maybe it's just the timing that's off.
Sure.
And we have a rule in our book club now that I think it goes, you take your age, take 100 and subtract your age, and if you don't like the book by the time you get to that number, you're done with it. You don't have to read any further. So the older I get, the shorter
that window is.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense because time is precious. Your life is precious.
Yeah.
Why read bad books?
But I always still, even if I don't finish a book club book, at first I was neurotic and did feel like I had to finish everyone. But I grew out of that.
Yeah.
I still go to book club, and based on the discussion, we'll decide whether to give it another try.
Oh, that's
and probably more often than not, I do then get back in and finish the book.
Yeah.
After we've discussed it.
You've got different ideas and things to think about. Yeah.
I also have to say I don't like. We live in a rural area, so getting access to the books that we have, our selections, is sometimes hard.
Yeah.
And I, at this point, don't have the desire to collect a lot of books.
Right.
I'm trying
There's
to minimize
only so much
that.
space. Yeah.
And I have a friend who's given me, who loans me her Kindle, so we share a Kindle on the book club books. And although that is convenient, it's not my favorite way to read.
Yeah.
I like to hold a book.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of retention, I retain it better knowing as I'm flipping pages where certain things are that were meaningful. So that's my preference too, is hardcover books, but for the most part now I'm reading books on Kindle.
Yeah.
Convenience for travel and those kinds of things, yes, but it's not my favorite way to read.
That makes sense. I still also love the hard copy books.
Yeah.
So there's also something too about the weight of it in your hands, know, and knowing where you are in the life of the story, because if it's a really long book, it might feel like you're almost there, but maybe you're only halfway. And
that's right.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to tell, but yeah.
Great. So that's my reading story, daughter.
I love it. Well,
go ahead. Anything else, or we've
done
it?
I guess are there any moments when you remember reading, and this will be my last question. Okay. It doesn't have to be a book, but are there moments when you remember reading or being really engaged in a story, and that moment felt, really resonant for you, that you felt really present in the story, or really present within the world because you were engaged in that reading?
Well, of course. And I think books that pull out an emotional response would be ones that come to mind, and I'm not going to, but good, definitely,
yes.
There are many that I've shed tears over.
There's
many that I haven't wanted to come to an end.
That
I've kind of savored the last few pages. And then there are the ones that it's like, okay, let me skip to the end and find out what.
Right. Well, thank you for not skipping to the end on this with me.
Oh, you're welcome.
For taking the time to talk reading.
That was a good lead.
A good segue.
Yeah.
And Must Reader, thank you for sitting with us while we did ironing and talked reading. And we'll keep talking books. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.